One. Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys in a Stack of Comics. My name is Reed. Along with me, as always, is Mike. Mike, this is a you heavy topic today. This is one we've talked about a little bit, but I wanted to get your perspective on it. Um, Death in comic books is an interesting sort of thing, and often it's a little more than a sprained ankle for most of these heroes when they die. I think at this point, we've seen most every single character go through a death of, return of, kind of arc. But your all-time favorite, Barry Allen, um, probably responsible for saving the comic book industry with Showcase 4, one can argue, when comics were in a real dark place in the 50s. And then one of the most seminal deaths ever, I believe in 85, if I'm correct, Mike, with Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yep.
Barry was brought back by Jeff Johns through many stories, but mainly chronicled through this Flash rebirth that was there. And has been involved in some things since, Flashpoint being a big one. We got a new 52 run, Josh Williamson's run. But I'll pose the question to you, Mike, and I'll kick it to you with this. As a Flash fan, do you feel it might have been better if Barry Allen had just stayed dead in 1985 and let that moment stand?
Being a Flash fan, I didn't expect him to come back. I just kind of rolled with the fact that he had died. But being a Flash fan, it was also kind of weird when other heroes like Superman died and came back, and they didn't bring Barry Allen back. And Marvel, DC, they kill him off, they bring him back, they kill him off, bring him back. Barry stayed dead for 20, 30 years. I forget how long it
He was
was.
22 overall, I think.
20, yeah, more than 20 years. So as a Flash fan, you just kind of rolled with it. As a Flash fan, you kind of accept, when you're a fan of these smaller characters like Daredevil or Aquaman or something like that, you kind of come to expect less, and you take what you can get, and then you don't get too excited for stuff because you never know. They could be killed off, their comic could be canceled, all these kind of things go through your mind. But as the decades wore on, and Flash didn't come back, and you saw everybody else revived, you kind of figured he was going to stay dead. And for some part of you understands that, well, it really meant something. And for once, I'm kind of glad they stuck to their guns. We all love Barry. We wish he was back. But hey, he had his protege that stepped right in and took his place. Wally West did a great job. And there was some great Wally West comics through the 90s. Mark Waid wrote a bunch of them. And so we had good, speedy adventures with Wally. And Wally was a different character, though. And, you really got to see the personalities of the two unfold as a Barry fan watching Wally develop. And so you just kind of resigned yourself to the fact that, well, there's one case, and I remember, talking with people over the years, like, they always bring that character back. I'm like, well, they didn't bring the flashback. Barry's still dead. That happened, over the decades. I mean, we're talking decades, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where Barry Allen was dead. Um, when he came back, it was a big surprise and welcome a surprise to us Flash fans. So, and then we did the Flashpoint thing, which is another major event in comic history. And so then you kind of understand, well, that's an event worthy of the mantle of Barry Allen because he, always had a big impact on comics, virtually saving the comics medium from extinction in the 50s and bringing the charge for superhero comics again down through the late 50s into the 60s and the Marvel explosion, which would have never happened if Flash wasn't reinvented and redesigned in 1956. That, sparked the imagination of millions of kids across the country to start to want to buy comics again. And so then we had Flashpoint, and this is a major event in the DC universe. And um, those were really fun things. I will say, as of late, he's, generally become a side character that appears sometimes and disappears other times. Um, and so that's kind of sad. I think that, in a lot of ways, DC Comics doesn't know what to do with, two, Flashes because Wally's still the Flash too. So how can you have two? And
Mm.
so, in some respects, I kind of think that, maybe they could have left him by the wayside, or they really would have picked him up strong and had him with his own title, carrying his own title, and Wally carrying his own title. But we know how the comic industry is right now. There's only so many titles that they can publish and make money, and two Flash comic books probably wouldn't sell. It's hard enough to sell one Flash comic every month. So it's a sad reality. In retrospect, I would really like to have more Barry Allen focused stories, maybe as a backup ish segment to a larger, maybe 32-page monthly comic where you could get your Wally West and you could get your Barry Allen, and sometimes they would cross over and have adventures and maybe spin off a mini series with one or the other. Something like that, a hybrid, I think could probably be done. But for right now, it's kind of sad. Barry's relegated to second fiddle once again, where when he came back on the scene, it seemed like he was going to be the main character. And I don't know what really happened to make him decide that, well, we need to go with Wally now. But they've definitely made that decision, and Wally is the main Flash. So I don't know. Would it be better?
I'll just ask, ultimately, if you were put in charge and they said, Mike, let's time traveling comic device, you can go back and reverse it and he doesn't come back. It just stays Wally the whole time. Would
Uh,
you do it, or do you think what they've done with him has been worth it to undo? I mean, because Crisis, his death in Crisis is one of the greatest deaths in all comics.
yeah, I would say, I mean, for what he did in Crisis, I would say that was a fitting end to a hero like Barry. I think they did it justice. And I would also say that as a Flash fan, it's great to see Barry back. We just don't see enough of him. And in my opinion, I think they kind of did him wrong. If they were going to bring him back, he should be more of a regular character. I really, really do. But I'd be interested if there's other Flash fans out there what they think about it.
I guess we can spin this a bit, Mike, into just the concept of death in comic books, period. Um, it's interesting in that we're on this treadmill with comic stories in terms of it's always you see a character die and no part of you truly believes it. Right. I remember there's a run going right now of Moon Knight that I really liked. About 2 years ago, they killed Moon Knight, and I never bought it for a second. And lo and behold, less than a year later, Moon Knight was back. I remember when they killed Logan when Wolverine was going to die, and they Death of Wolverine series, and I never believed for a second he was going to be dead long term. And I think within 4 or 5 years, he was back. Do you think if comics went to death is permanent? Death, because we've seen at this point, Bucky's back, Jason Todd is back, Gwen Stacy has been brought back. I mean, basically, Uncle Ben's about the only one who stays in the ground at this point. Do
Oh, but
you
then
think
there was Ultimate Spider-Man
the
where
Ultimate Spider-Man even has Uncle Ben as
yeah,
a current character?
Uncle Ben appears again.
Do you think comics would be better off if death was permanent? Do you think this? I would supposition if death means nothing, then what am I to be invested in? I think that's a hard, and again, I'm not advocating for characters to die. Obviously, look, when they killed Wolverine, I was more annoyed than anything. I stopped buying a couple months before when that was advertised. I didn't pick up a book for years, and I bought it as soon as he came back. But do you think if they did go with no deaths actually matter, that would help the industry? Do you think this has actually hurt comics that they can't stick to it?
Well, being as though Flash is probably the only character that I can think of, main character that got killed off and stayed dead for more than 2 decades. Um, Death in comic books has always meant something to me as a Flash fan because
Mhm.
I went through those 2 decades. Um, and but the medium is set up to where these characters, they have to die and come back again because they're so long running. Some of these characters are 80 plus years old. So for the fiction to survive and for the fans to go on, I do think if you kill them off, you have to bring them back at some point. Um, and just to continue telling the stories, if for nothing else. But that being said, there's a lot of good sidekicks out there like Wally West that could pick up the mantle of some of these legacy characters and move the story forward that way. It didn't happen so successfully with Batman. We have Nightwing, but he didn't take on the full Batman. At this point, Batman would
He
be
had it for
about
about a year or two. Yeah.
he'd be like 102 in real years if he was still.
Yeah.
Let me get out my bat cane and hit that whippersnapper. But so they do have to die and come back. It's all fiction. But it's irritating when they come back so quickly. It's like,
I
come
think if I
on,
had to
man.
play the other side or devil's advocate on it,
Yeah,
here's what I'd say. We see a lot of comic books push for legacy characters. They have tried the last 10 years. Sam Wilson is Captain America. Laura Kinney, X-23 is Wolverine. There's a couple, Dick Grayson as Batman's happened. They tried John Kent as Superman. While Clark was gone for a bit. I think if they actually stuck to the deaths, you might get fans to move on. I think one
that's
of the
the thing.
reasons why Wally stuck was, like you said, 20 something years.
The
For me,
commitment.
growing up as a kid, Wally West was the Flash. As a kid who grew up in the 90s, if you'd have asked me who the Flash was, I would have said Wally West, and I might have seen the name Barry Allen because of the TV show that was on. But I remember, I think I remember watching that show and being like, that's not his name. In the comics, his name is Wally. What is this?
That was kind of
And
strange.
I think the thing is, why I think Sam Wilson as Captain America doesn't work is Steve is still there. When you have Steve and Steve's still around, there's no part of me that wants to see Sam as Captain America when the real deal is right behind him. And I think that's the thing is if you really want Sam to be Captain America, then you have to make the decision that Steve is done. I think the reason we don't stick with these changes is we don't believe them. And then we know they'll reverse them. And so I think what comic fans have gotten accustomed to is we'll just complain enough, we'll stop buying, and they'll bring the character back. And I
Yeah.
think what's happened is we're in this cycle now of deaths for shock value that have no actual narrative purpose. Like one of the cool things with Barry's death, whatever you want to say about event comics, Crisis on Infinite Earths is epic. And that death, you could tell they thought that through. They knew what they were doing. They knew the implications of it. And that moment felt grand because it was like, man, they're not telling this just to, oh hey, we're sales are down. Let's get a bump for a bit. Um when they killed Wolverine, it was the complete opposite. I was annoyed. Like this isn't story. This story isn't worthy of him. This is not how Logan should go out. You're not going to stick to this. There's a cynicism that takes over. Do you
Yeah.
think if they did have it be more permanent, that it would for if they had a rule at DC, hey, if a character dies, they're dead. Do you think the writing would be better where they would actually think this through and
It would
fans would get more invested in the stories?
it would have to be. So for example, with the case of the Flash, Barry was gone. The decision was made to push Wally as the Flash. He carried the mantle forward, and that's all there was. That's all there was to it.
Mm-hmm.
And as a comic book fan back then, knowing how death works in comics, you kept buying thinking, oh, Barry's going to come back.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that for a while. And then, no, he never came back. So you have to up your game and you have to go all in. I would say with this medium that we love and how it's very, you know, It's I would say with this
Cyclical.
medium, like a like a death, I would say as an editor, I would say, okay, if we're going to kill this character, we're not bringing him back for 5 years or some, significant length of time. And then you
Hmm.
really have to commit to the sidekick or the heir apparent or whatever and just commit to it. You can't capitulate and cave right away when you've committed to the death. And then it would mean something. I mean, we know these characters are always going to come back. Even Barry Allen came back after 22
Yeah.
years. We know these characters are going to come back and Barry will hold the record, I guess, forever. But
Well,
six
I guess
months.
Captain Marvel. Marvel is the one hero who died. That he not a big name one, but he's one of the only ones that's really stuck.
When did he die?
I think he was mid '80s and he's still gone. I want to say that Captain Death of Captain Marvel graphic novels in the '80s sometime.
We'll have to have some of our viewers like put in the comments. I'm sure there's more,
Well, I'm
but
trying. Is there any character who carried his own title, which Captain Marvel did, and then Barry? I don't know any other one who's just been dead because they've never brought Captain Marvel back permanently. Um, I think that's the other thing is too. Is, how many villains die? How many? I mean, just I think
the
that's the
villains
thing
come
they've got
back.
to get to
Sometimes the villains come back faster than the heroes. It's
for
like,
sure,
what
for
are we
sure.
doing here? So I think, as an editorial, if they board, if they just said, okay, in the planning stage for the next year, we're going to have this big event and somebody's going to die. I want an editor to put their foot down and go, okay, guys, that piece is off the board for at least 5 years. What are you going to do till then? What's your plan? And when the fans start crying for their hero back, you're just going to double down and give them more. You're going to have to up your game in writing and write, the mantle carrier even better, which is what they did with Wally.
Hmm.
They wrote him pretty darn well, and he carried that book, for 2 decades, and did pretty well. So, I mean, you'd really have to double down. But I'd say something like around, what would you say, 3, 5 years to
I
commit? It's
think if
hard to
you
get them to commit to
to
six
me to
months right
be
now, but
honest, I think they should have to do a decade if you kill them off. Because if you're killing someone for a decade, you can't say that didn't matter, right? Like
yeah.
if it's hey man, like you have a whole new generation of readers theoretically that could come in and really have that. And I think that's why some of these characters I never like. Oh, look, I like Dick Grayson. I love Nightwing. I think he's a great character. When they made Dick Grayson Batman, I'm going to be honest, I didn't pick up a single issue. And the reason I didn't pick up a single issue, one, annoyance that Bruce was gone because Bruce is Batman. And anybody else in that role, they're not my favorite superhero. I don't like the mantle. I like Bruce Wayne. If he was a different hero, that would be my favorite hero, not Batman. And so when they did that, even though it was Grant Morrison, even though it was well written, and I've read it since when they brought Bruce back, and it was decent comics, when it came out, I didn't pick up any. It's like, this is just annoying. I know you're not going to stick to this. No part of me believed that Bruce Wayne was actually dead and they were going to stick to it. And when Bruce came back, I wasn't really happy when Bruce came back. I was more annoyed. More like, really? I lost a year of Batman comics so you guys could do this weird thing where we pretended he was gone and we all knew he wasn't. And I think that's the thing. If they'd have gone a decade, I'll be honest, I probably would have kept buying Batman comics. And I probably would have kept buying Dick Grayson books. And I think after 10 years, even with Bruce as my favorite character, I probably would have got around to where like, well, no, Dick Grayson's Batman. I
Now,
think that lack
I
of commitment kills it for me.
I hear you on the decade thing, but I think like they're not going to listen to this anyways.
Oh, no,
But
no.
I do think that in this day and age, that's probably a little too long. Maybe 5, 6 years. But I do feel strongly that they should commit to it. Being a Flash fan, of course, we commit to it, like you did with the Flash. And I will say, I was thrilled when they were going to bring when they said they were going to bring Barry back. That was a very good moment for all of us Barry Allen fans because we missed him.
Yeah, I just think it's an interesting topic. I'd be interested in folks' thoughts. I think the biggest gripe I have with it is I think if they had to stick with it more, the deaths would be more well thought out and there'd be more
Yes.
commitment to it. As opposed to right now, it's kind of like Oh man, we've done 25 issues of Moon Knight. Guess we need to kill him. It's like, really, that's what we're doing. And it just always feels kind of lazy. And I think the other part is, as much as we hear Marvel give lip service to, oh, we want Sam Wilson to be Captain America, we want Jane Foster to be Thor, we want Laura Kinney to be Wolverine. When the original, real deal, genuine article is still on the page with them, you're never going to accept that that person's there. It's kind of, you and I have been at work. It's kind of like if you had someone who was like, oh, they're the new boss now, but the old boss is still there hanging around him. And every time the guy does something, he has to ask permission from the old boss. You don't
Yeah,
respect that guy. At a certain point, you're like, can we just actually talk to him? Like,
yeah,
we know you're not actually making these choices. And I think that's
yeah,
what it feels like for Sam and Laura and some of these other characters, where it's like, why am I going to get invested in Sam Wilson as Captain America? I know you're just going to make it Steve again. And again, I want it to be Steve. Steve should be Cap. But you just end up being more annoyed because it's like, well, the genuine article's right there. You're not actually committed to this either. Why do you expect me to be? But let us know.
kind of
Go
like
ahead, Mike.
me with Flash comics right now. I'm kind of, I know Barry's he's there somewhere.
Yeah, I know. I think that's the other annoying part. Is like, I'll be honest, as I'm not as big a Flash fan as you, but when Barry Allen's around and they oh well, he's depowered now. It's like, well, what the heck are we doing? Like, I get it. You want Wally to have the book, but if Barry Allen is there, I would argue he's more the Flash than Wally, even though Wally's a great character. It's just weird. I think they've got to pick a lane. Let us know your thoughts down below, folks. What do you guys think of the concept of death in comics? Do you think that they need to stick to it? Do you like the sort of flippant nature of it? Whether you agree or disagree, just let us know what you think. As always, folks, thank you for watching. God bless you. You have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, everybody.